Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're going to be talking about the new ESUM palette. So this is the number 3 Harmony palette. This is the 4th palette in their collection, and this is a really beautiful, warm, springy extension of their Artistry palettes. So I did buy the first 3 in this series, the first all matte one, which is neutrals, and both shimmers. And then ESUM did gift this to me, so they did send this to me, and I am very happy about that. This is really beautiful, and I am very grateful to have been gifted this. So we're gonna go over this. I've had this for a couple weeks now. I've used all of the shadows. So we're gonna do some swatches, and I've already done 4 other looks. So we're gonna do one more look, talk about those looks, and talk about, is this worth your money and how it compares to their other palettes. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Colin. I'm a non-binary Latinx scientist and lover of makeup with a definite soft spot for indie makeup and high-end makeup. And I tend to take a pretty analytical approach to the content I make, and I have new videos every week, so I'd love to have you subscribe. Okay, so this is, like I said, the number 3 palette. It is technically the 4th, but number 4 is the colorful shimmer palette. As soon as that came out, I was like, what is number 3 gonna be? So this is all mattes, but these are magnetic and interchangeable, so they do have a really nice compact sleeve that you can slide out, and then you can pop it out, and all the shades are labeled, and you can mix and match. So I do really enjoy that. I like palettes kind of like Natasha Denona and some other brands where you can mix things around and make your own color story, but because they are slightly makeup artistry focused, I do like that they are housed separately like mattes and shimmers unless you want to mix them yourself. So, some basic info for this. This palette has already launched. It launched a couple days ago, I believe. It premiered at one of the makeup shows going on, I think, last week, and then officially launched on the website the last few days. So we're gonna go over some basic info. We're gonna do swatches, do an eye look, and then I'll talk about the other 4 looks that I've done and insert those clips. I did try something new and I have B-roll for those. So this retails for $80. That is the same price as their first all matte palette, number 1, which is this really beautiful neutral palette. And then the shimmer palettes, these retail for $120. They're expensive, but the quality is really beautiful. And I really like the formulas in here, so I have no regrets for buying the original ones. So if you don't know, ESUM is a newer brand. They're an extension of Muse Beauty Pro, which was a website where you could buy cosmetics and pro cosmetics, and ESUM is their own brand. They also have brushes. I've not tried those. I really do want to try them. And they also have some blushes and stuff like that I would like to try, just haven't yet. I've only bought the eyeshadows so far, and then this, like I said, was sent to me. So this says, the ESUM Artistry Palette number 3 Harmony, working in perfect harmony, 15 beautiful mattes. So it says, this is a melody of hues from soft peach, poppy, and buttercup to hibiscus, marigold, saffron, and orchid, designed to bring a soft transition to a structured look with an ethereal wash of color for the eyes and cheeks. So you can use this on your face. This is vegan and talc-free and all of that, but because it is vegan and you do have these bright poppy peach colors, these do have, like a lot of indie eyeshadows, they have vegan pigments that are technically not safe for the eyes. So this does say you can use it in the eye area and face, but not the immediate eye. I've used them on my eye. They haven't stained me or caused any irritation, but it is something that a lot of brands always have to put that warning. Generally, they're the kind of pigments where in the EU, they're designated as an eyeshadow, but in the US, they're not. So they have to say that. But I've used them, haven't had any staining. I do use an eye primer, but I haven't had any staining, and even if you do, it fades after a day or so when I've had staining from really pigmented indie shadows. Another thing that I found was interesting, I don't know, I'm assuming it was the same for the other palettes, but I just didn't catch it before, was that it does say that this has a shea butter base to it, and it's supposed to have a very long wear formula. It does have a very long wear formula. I've never experienced any kind of fading with any of these. And I was surprised about the shea butter because some indie brands put shea butter in their shimmers specifically, like Adept has palettes that they specifically say these have a high concentration of shea butter, so if you have oily eyelids, these might not work for you. And make sure you use an eye primer. So I have avoided those because I know anything too emollient is just gonna melt off my eye. I have not had an issue with these, even without an eye primer. Same with these. So whatever the shea butter compounds they have in this, just make them very silky and very soft and blendable, but like don't affect the long wear of it, which I'm very happy about. So when we look at it, it is really colorful, especially compared to the first one. Let me put them side by side. So this is a nice, bright, colorful extension of that. I'm very excited. I hope they do like a cool blue, green, purple version. And then I think it'll pair really nicely with both the neutral shimmers and the colorful shimmers. But it really, like, if they do these colors in mattes, that'd make me really happy. Especially a good olive. But so we've got these like terracotta orange tones. They lean a little more orange than brown on me. This one is a little more brown, but like these more terracotta orange tones. And then we've got these more golden tones. I believe they describe these as camel, ochre, and tawny, but they pull a little more yellowy on my olive undertone. Then we've got some corals. Then we've got these pinky violets, which do pull very pink on me, but there is that hint of violet purple. And then more of a warm pink. These are described as pink browns. They don't really have a lot of brown in them on my undertone, but they might if you have a more pink undertone. So we're gonna do swatches. Like I said, I've used all of these and I do have footage. I did stick in the looks in columns. You can mix and match, and I probably will in today's look, and I have in other looks, especially with like these first two columns. I think these work really well together, and I think these would work really well together. But because I know a lot of people do kind of work in those columns, and a lot of people like palettes that have a gradient that they can follow easily, I did do my B-roll looks sticking in the columns. So I'm gonna turn the camera down, we're gonna go to my arm and we'll do swatches so you can kind of see what they look like on my undertone. Then we'll come back to do the look and talk about the other looks. I always say this with swatches, I can talk. It's been a long weekend. Swatches are just to show what the color looks like. They don't really tell you about performance, whether good or bad. They're just about color. A lot of people are too reliant on swatches, but they don't really tell you anything other than how something swatches. And I don't have any lotion, primer, nothing on my arm. I'm just gonna take my watch off and swatch on just bare skin. Okay, so welcome to my arm and table. So I'm gonna swatch them in the columns, and I'm gonna tell you how they describe the shadow and kind of how I would. I like an in-depth swatch. I like to describe the texture of things. So we'll start with this column. So this is the shade Verbena, which is described as a light warm amber, very silky and soft. Then we've got this is Marigold, which is described as a warm apricot. They're each warm, medium, deep. And I would say that's pretty accurate. That is definitely an apricot. And then this is Zinnia, which is described as a deep, warm terracotta. Slightly drier in finish, but still very soft. Really beautiful. So you can see they're the kind of formula that don't give you instant opaque pigment, but build really easily, and not in the way where you have to build forever. There's definitely shadows that I've used that have to build and build, and at that point I'm just annoyed and don't want to use it. These build really easily on themselves. Okay, so the second column this is Buttercup, which is described as a light warm ochre. I would say that's pretty accurate. And then we've got this is Pampas, which is a warm caramel. I would say very accurate for that. And then this is described as a deep, this is Velutina, which is described as a deep warm tawny. So definitely a Buttercup shade, I would say. And this is definitely a caramel. Really beautiful kind of orangey brown. And then the last shade is just a nice kind of brown, warm leaning brown, a little bit of orange and yellow in there. These pair really nicely together. And then the middle row we have, sorry, they're listed in rows, not columns, so I have to jump around on the page. So for the middle column, we have a warm peach, and I would say that is very accurate. It is a very pale peach, but very true peach. The middle shade is hibiscus, which is described as a warm coral, and I think these feel very silky as well. Not very much just true coral. And then poppy is the shade, which is described as a deep warm red. Again, slightly drier than some of the other shades. It's probably got to do with the pigment, but not dry. Still very silky when I swatch them out. Really beautiful peach, really accurate coral. These would be really beautiful blushes. They're small pans, but still really beautiful blushes. Okay, and then in the fourth column, we have Sakura, which is described as a light, cool pink lavender. And I would say that's very accurate. It's a little drier, a little bit of kick up in the pan. This is Valerian, which is a medium cool pink violet. You can definitely see a little bit of that purple undertone, and then that finger still has that one, so all I'll do is this. And this is Orchid, which is a deep, cool red violet. And again, a little drier. I think it's just kind of this bottom row. Really beautiful purple pink. This one, this is the Valerian. This is the cool pink. This one is definitely cool pink, and it pulls very pink on my eye when I used it. This one definitely pulled a little bit more purple. And then we've got that Orchid shade, which again pulls a little bit more red, but like cool pink red. I would like in the next, I'd like to see some more like cool purples. That would be really pretty. I mean, we do have these mauve tones that would pair nicely with those, but like true purple violets would be really pretty. And then we've got the kind of, I would say, cool pink to warm pink. So this is Peony, which is a neutral pink brown. I don't really see pink brown in there at all. This is just neutral pink to me. Then we've got Tea Rose, and I would say this is a very accurate rose shade. And then the last here is Dahlia, which is a neutral burgundy brown. I would say, yeah, it's not full burgundy, but not full brown either. But you can see that's just a nice bright pink. And that is a really beautiful true rose. And then kind of ran out of room. I'll just put it up here. Here's that burgundy brown. It's burgundy, but there is that hint of brown. It's not as red as a true burgundy, but it's still burgundy heavy. Very fun, bright, colorful palette. Really excited to have these colors in their formula. So I'm gonna go wash off my arm and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to my face. I just added a little bit of my NARS eyeshadow primer to my eyes so we can get into the look. Before I forget, makeup details, I am wearing the new Kosas skin tint. They did send that to me in PR and I finally got it the other day. This is the third time I've worn it. I've done a wear test. I'll have a video talking about that soon. I like it so far. The shade's a little light for me, but like with powder and bronzer and stuff, it works. And then I have my House Labs concealer, my Surratt bronzer, and then I have two of the blushes from Kaki's Finding Ferdinand collections. I used Macchiato from the Summer Abroad, and then I topped it with Cozy, which is the like warm transformer shade from the new one. And then I wasn't sure what I was gonna do on the eyes, so I just grabbed my favorite Victoria Beckham gloss, which is Poolside, because it's kind of a neutrally rosy brown. Because these can be used as blushes, I think I'm gonna I grabbed just a blush brush. This is a Rougher 5. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of the first two coral shades, like the peach and the coral. Pick up a little bit of those and see how they work as blushes. I forgot I need a mirror. Picks up very nicely on this. I don't have any powder blush on. Very pigmented for blush, but works really well. I like a multi-purpose product. Oh yeah, that looks really pretty. I wasn't planning on doing that, but you know. So now I'm wearing 3 blushes. I already have B-roll to show with everything but the middle row, and I think these 2 are the ones I'm gonna use the most. So I wanna try the coral leaning shades on camera, and then I have the other ESUM palettes here if I want to throw any of those in. I might end up using a little bit of like this, but we'll see. So I'm gonna go in with the peach first. I just wanna see how that works. I mean, I've used it already once, but picks up very well. And I'll scoot in a little bit. And I'm just going to lightly dust this into my crease. That's really pretty. It is very much a true peach. And these shadows blend really effortlessly. This is just a rougher one. I like it because it's fluffy enough, but it also has a bit of a flat side. I really like that. I think, especially if you are fairer, like on the light to light medium spectrum and have more of a pinky undertone, that's gonna be really nice. These are gonna be really nice transition shades for you. Okay, so I just added some to the other eye. Now I'm gonna go into the middle shade, which is the True Coral. And I'm gonna see how that layers up next to that. You can see it's really bright. This is a very vibrant, springy palette, which is very exciting. I mean, it's technically just March, end of February, but you know, I'm excited for spring and summer. So that was one dip, and I'm just blending the 2 together. I really like the ESUM formula. It just blends really effortlessly. And even in the light shades, you can build them up really well. The neutral palette has been a go-to for like quick work looks, or if I don't know what I want to use and I just want to use a shimmer, like a special shimmer, I grab it a lot. I've just used the same brush for both of those. I really like that. I already have the first matte palette. I feel like these shades would blend in really well with these if you needed to tone it down a little bit. And then I'm gonna grab a small brush. I really want to try all 3 like I've done with the other looks. And then I think I might add a little bit of the more brown toned Terracotta. And you can see it's just a little darker, a little more vibrant, a little more red. You can see it on the actual eye, it shows up a little more red. I'm just leaving it out here and kind of buffing that in. I don't wear a lot of red eyeshadow. I just don't like the way it looks against my undertone that much. But I love a coral, and this has just no coral in it. And then I think I'm gonna take a little bit of the Terracotta just to mix things up and see how that orangey brown layers in with these. That added just a little bit of more orange back in and a little bit of that brown. I'm gonna dip in one more time. That toned down the red a little bit, made it actually a little bit more coral again, and a little more neutral. Really like that. Well, not neutral, but like neutralize some of the red. Yeah, I like that a lot. So I'm gonna do that on the other eye real quick. I'm really excited to see how these look on other skin tones. Like, and I'm sure Alicia Archer got this. I wonder if my friend Jamila got this. I haven't actually asked her. Curious to see how it'll look on them. And then for shimmer, I think I'm gonna grab the number 4 palette because this is also really bright and vibrant, but I'm gonna use these shades right here. Put a little bit of this on the outer part of the lid and a little bit of this on the center of the lid. I'm actually gonna pick up that slightly more satin looking like brown shade with the same brush and put it right here, and that'll add a little bit of depth and a little bit, and just tone it down a little bit on the lid, but not too much. Still want the vibrancy. Yeah. Okay, I like that. And you can see there, it blended in really easily. And then if I want more depth, I could always add like some eyeliner or something and then smudge it out. That'd be a nice way. But I think for now, I'm just gonna grab a shimmer. I'm gonna use this more red copper leaning shade. I'm gonna pick it up with my finger. Really beautiful. I love that. I really love these shimmers. That actually matches the tone of the corals perfectly. And then layering it over that slightly brown leaning shade adds some depth, but you can still, it's still coral, which is exactly what I wanted. Okay. Okay, and then I think I want to add a little bit of the yellow as well. I love these like iridescent sparkly shades. I'm just gonna tap a little bit of that on. Add a little bit of that extra twinkle and make it a little bit less monochromatic, just because I don't tend to do monochromatic looks. I love that. I don't know if it'll show on camera as much, but there's lots of yellow twinkle now. Okay, I'm gonna go off camera real quick and add some mascara and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back and this is the finished look. I went in and added a little bit of ground coffee from Lisa Eldridge. I felt like I needed that depth around my eyeline. And then I added my Surratt mascara and that is it. Really like the way this looks. Really like the way the corals look as blush as well. They performed very well. Really, really love this palette. So let's talk about the other looks I've done and final thoughts and all of that. But really happy with this. I really like the way the yellow is working, like the twinkly yellow. I'll try to insert a little clip here that might, like in different lighting, so you can see a little bit better since it's in the afternoon and I have actual lights out. Hopefully that'll show the yellow sparkle. But I'm gonna insert B-roll here and show the other looks. So the first 2 looks I did were with the terracottas and the more golden brown shades. Okay, so for the first look, I used the terracotta shades, which are, the bottom one is definitely terracotta, the other 2 are more orange, like peachy orange. So the first shade I threw on is a very nice pale orange. You can see I forgot to tap out my eye primer. And it doesn't have instant pigment, but does have color and builds up really nicely. It's just like a nice soft wash of orange. You could do a really nice just wash of that color all over your lids. I think that would be really beautiful. And then I just went in a little bit more just to build up that color. And you can just see that really soft wash really would be really pretty. And then I went in with the second shade, and you can see it's much more vibrantly orange looking when it touches the brush against like the starkness of the white bristles. And as I started blending in, you can see there's a little bit of a brown there. So it is a little bit terracotta, but it is pretty orange. And it just blended really, really effortlessly. Blended into the other shade nicely. And then I ended up kind of doing a soft wash of it all over my lid, just to make sure I had something all over there because I wasn't sure what shimmer I was gonna use. And then I grabbed the Terracotta shade again on that first brush again and tapped it in, and it just adds the nice amount of depth, brown, but still being kind of orangey. So you could do just a really lovely all over, like warm orangey tone look with this. I'm gonna use this a lot in the summer. These are the shades that I love to wear. And then for a little bit of added depth, I went into this shade from the first palette, the slightly more red brown, and I added that to the outer corner as well, just to give even more depth. And it kind of toned down the orange a little bit, just to like add a little bit more earthiness to that terracotta. And you can see they blended together really beautifully. And then for the shimmer, I went into the neutral shimmer palette and grabbed the yellowy gold and threw that all over the lid. And it just worked really beautifully with these warm mattes. I think it works really well with the neutrals as well, but if you want a slightly more colorful warm look, I think it worked really nicely. And then the shade right underneath that is kind of a yellow leaning brown. So I picked that and added that to the outer part of the lid, and the gradient of those two shadows is always a favorite of mine. I've done it before with the neutrals. Really love the way it worked with the more terracotta mattes from this palette. So really loved that first look. And then for the second look, I went in with the more golden shades. I started with the medium shade. I just thought that would be best. That's often what I do. I pick more of a medium brown, and this I just packed all over the lid. Really love the caramel tone of this. I think this is gonna be my most used, like that and the shade right below it are gonna be my most used from this palette. But that's because on the day-to-day, I wear neutrals a lot, and these are my kind of neutrals with that like yellowy undertone. If they have like a olive undertone or a yellow undertone, they just work really well for me. So this shade all over the lid with a little bit of eyeliner and mascara would be a go-to look, right? That. I am wearing mascara here, like a light layer already, but that would be a go-to everyday work look if I wanted an all matte look. And then I picked up the yellow and used that to buff around the edges to add a little bit more of the yellow tone to it versus it being that more like warm caramelly brown. And you can see they blend together really effortlessly. Really love the way this worked. Had zero issues. I can talk. I had zero issues with the blending. These are the most like skin native, as khaki would say, tones for me. So they were just effortlessly to use. And then I went ahead and grabbed the darkest shade from that column and added that to the outer part of the lid. And I think that's gonna work really well with the terracottas as well. I don't know why I didn't do that in the first one. I wanted to show how they worked with the other matte palette, but I think it has just enough yellow to it, but just enough depth and brown that it's perfect. And this is my favorite look, that all matte look. I would wear that every day. And I have since then worn that, and I think I'm gonna wear that a lot. And then for shimmer, I went into the copper shade from the first shimmer palette. Almost said shiny palette, which is also true. And I threw that all over the lid. I wanted to see how the copper, because it is a little more orangey leaning, I think that would work really well with the terracottas as well. But I wanted to see how it would look against the more yellow leaning browns here, and I think it pairs really nicely. And then I did pick up a little bit of that darker copper, and I put that on the outer half of my lid as well. So I really love just how both of those looks came out. Those are gonna be the kind of things I wear all the time. These are gonna be go-tos for me, and I think this is gonna be my most used column. Okay, so for the second round of looks, I started with the warm pinks, the pinky browns as they describe them, and I started with the middle shade again. This is very much a true rose. You can see I already hit a little bit down before I forgot to say what shade I was using. Very pigmented, really beautiful true rose. Again, I don't see the brown that they list in the shade description, but I do think it is a really beautiful rose tone, so I don't have a problem with it. I just, at least on my undertone, I'm not seeing any brown, but blended really effortlessly, looked really beautiful, like just simple to use. And I think that's, out of the two pinks, I'm gonna use the light purple a lot, but I feel like the rose is a really just lovely shade. That would also be a really beautiful blush, especially on like with a cooler tone look. Even though it is a warm pink, it's just gonna look really nice on cooler looks. Then I used a little bit of the light pink to dust the edges. Just worked really beautiful, really effortlessly again. And then I went into the darker shade. So this is the one that's described as a burgundy brown. Picked up really nice on my brush. I'm just using a rougher one again here. And you can see very smooth, opaque application from that one dip. And I just blended that in to the other two shades. And again, it is a little more brown toned than a true like red burgundy, but I don't really see any brown, but it still looks really pretty. I ended up just kind of buffing that all over the lid because I was contemplating using iridescent shadow and I wanted a nice base for it. And then for the shimmer, I went into the new collection from Shine by SD. This, I don't remember the shade name, but I'll have it in the description box. This is just a really beautiful, like, red pink shimmer with lots of sparkle. And so I threw that all over the lid. And this is how I've been using the ESUM palettes a lot. I do really love the ESUM shimmers and I use them all the time, but they're also a really great base for all of the single shadows that I have. And this just came in the mail that day, so really wanted to use that, and I thought it worked really well. It is a cooler pink, but there is some red to it in person, so I think it would work well with either of the pinky columns in this palette. Just happened to use it with the more rosy tones. And then for the fourth look, I went into the cooler tones, and I went into the middle shade again, this time on a Sigma brush, just because it's what I had there. I also wanted to try it on a synthetic brush since I hadn't. I just tend to use natural hair in general. And you can see that middle shade is a little violet. There's a little bit of violet to it, but on me it pulls very pink. Not a problem, just describing the color. So it is very cool pink, but I don't really get a lot of violet. I do when I use the first shade, especially by itself, but as soon as I mix it with either of the other two, I just get mostly pink. But still really beautiful, worked really well. I do think I prefer the way this shadow worked with my rougher brushes versus my Sigma. I do like Sigma brushes, but I just prefer the performance of a natural hair. I think they work better. They pick up product differently, they blend differently. I can do a video on why I prefer the brushes I use, if you're interested. And then I picked up the pale, more actual lilac or violet shade, and I threw that on the edges. It blended out really nicely and it did add a little bit more of that purpley violet to it. Really like the way that looks, and you can really see how much cooler these are compared to the others when I have them one on each eye. The other ones are very warm rosy and these are definitely cool violet pinks. And then I went in with the deepest shade again, picked that up on a small brush, actually one of the brushes I used today, and I put that on the outer corner. And that, on the eye, you might have seen it in the swatch too, just pulls very pink, like dark Barbie pink on me. Really pretty, but definitely I think this is gonna be my least used column in this, but I feel like for most people, this is gonna be their most used because I think a lot of people gravitate towards these tones. I'm just not one of those people based on my skin tone and my undertone and everything. I do like the way it looks though, really pretty. And I think they all just blend again effortlessly together. I know I'm sounding repetitive, but it is true. And then for the shimmer for this look, I went into the like pink, more slightly baby pink, almost iridescent shade in the Shine by SD collection. And I put that all over the lid. Worked really well. This is my first impression of those, and they're just really beautiful, so I really liked that shimmer. Thought it worked well with those. I think both of these shimmers would have worked well with either of those, and then I threw a little on the other eye. And then I finished off the look by grabbing the very sparkly pink shade from the Volume 4, number 4 palette, and I put that on the outer side of my lid. I felt like I just needed a little bit of that a darker shimmer out there to go with the Shine by SD shade, and the two blended together really beautifully. The sparkle worked really nice, and I just thought the two looks looked really nice together. I already had mascara on, so that was the finished of those two looks. Okay, so that is 5 looks with the ESUM palette. We used every shade, used shimmers from ESUM and from indie brands. I feel like I wanted this to be an in-depth, since I had a little bit of extra time since they sent this to me, I wanted this to be as in-depth as I could, especially being an all matte palette. I wanted to show how all of them looked and performed on my skin. In case you are a similar skin tone or undertone, I thought I wanted this to be as helpful as possible. So let me know what you think. I really love this palette. I'm gonna be using this a lot in the spring and summer. I feel like right now it's still dark and moody, and I'm still kind of more in the mood for like neutrals and cool tones. But I feel like especially these first 3 columns I'm gonna be using a lot, and I think they're gonna pair together really nicely with my other recent palettes. So I'm very grateful to have been sent this. It is an expensive palette, it is $80. I do think there are codes out there, but I'm not sure. I will have all of the information in the description box like normal, but the quality you get here is just so lovely, and the packaging is really nice. I like how slim it is. I have no complaints. So let me know what you think of the palette. Let me know if you think you're gonna grab it. Have you already picked it up? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. As always, that's part of why I have this channel. I like to talk to y'all about things in the comments. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in my next video.